And he comes over to my left side. He puts his right hand on my shoulder. His left hand is holding the rosary. We say a prayer I'm very familiar with. And at the end of it, he looks at me and he goes, "Kid, when you get better, you ought to talk about this." Hey guys, what is crackin', Hope Nation? It is great to see you. My name is Kevin Hines. In case you haven't been on this channel before, youtube.com/Kevin Hines. Make sure you hit subscribe and click that bell and give us a like, give us a thumbs up if you really enjoy the video. Today we are doing Ask Kev. So I have had people ask me all kinds of questions over my career in brain, mind, behavioral, and mental health and prevention of suicide. And here I am to answer your questions today. Ask Kev, let's go. All right, guys, so I get this question all the time. People ask me all the time, how do I become a great public speaker? What do I do to get on that journey and to follow in maybe your footsteps or somebody else who I really like Bill Clinton, Van Jones? People ask me all the time, how do I do this? So I will tell you what I did and we'll break it down from there. I volunteered for a cause when I was right out of my attempt of suicide. So when I attempted to take my life and I survived, I realized I wanted to do something more with my story. I wanted to help people. But I didn't know that right away. I was very reluctant to tell my story. This is how it all broke down. I was in my first psych ward stay at St. Mary's Hospital after my attempt off the Golden Gate Bridge. And a Franciscan friar named Brother George Cherry, who if you saw Suicide: The Ripple Effect, you know him very well, he came in to visit me. And every single time he would enter a patient's room, he would read the chart. Every time, 20, 30 years, he always read the chart. Not this day. He walks into my room, he looks at me and he goes, "Hey kid, what are you in for?" And this guy was a bit of a character. He had the black robe with the white rope and a red rosary in one hand, obviously Catholic, which I am as well. And he looked like with bright white hair like St. Francis without the birds, if you know what I'm saying. And he says to me, "What are you in for?" And I looked at him. I'm putting on my back brace. I'm holding my cane. I've gone from a wheelchair to a walker and a back brace to a back brace and a cane in my physical recovery from my attempt. And then this guy comes in and makes a joke. And I was like, "Brother, I jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge." And he goes, "Oh yeah? And I'm the Pope." He didn't believe me at all. He made light of it. I said, "No, brother, that's why the back brace, that's why the cane, I did." And he goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I feel so terrible. Let's pray." And he comes over to my left side. He puts his right hand on my shoulder. His left hand is holding the rosary. We say a prayer I'm very familiar with. And at the end of it, he looks at me and he goes, "Kid, when you get better, you ought to talk about this." And I was like, "Yeah, buddy, about what to who?" is exactly what I said. And he said, "You'll see." Every single day, every time he prayed, he'd come in, he'd say his prayers, and he'd say, "Kid, when you get better, I think you ought to talk about this." And every single day I would ignore him. I wouldn't want to have anything to do with what he was saying. I didn't believe that I was ever going to tell my story. I didn't believe it would have an effect. I thought, why would I do that? Who's going to hear that message and why does it matter? The last day of my stay, Brother George Cherry comes in. He goes, "Kevin, I expect you're going to talk about this." And I walked out of the room with my cane and my back brace, my head down to the ground, thinking, "Yeah, buddy, whatever, man." My father picks me up. A few weeks later, we go to church. The church I grew up in, the church I was confirmed in, the church who would marry my wife and I, Margaret, shout out Margaret Hines, later. And the very same priest, in fact, Monsignor Michael Harriman confirmed me. He would marry me later, and he's in the church. He was then only a father at the church, St. Cecilia's. And he comes out after the service, which I thought was talking directly to me, as they do. I actually think my dad had a conversation with him behind closed doors and said, "You really need to give a message straight to Kevin about recovery and wellness and well-being," because that's what the service was about. And he comes out, and I'm walking with my cane. I'm kind of hobbling around. My dad's got my elbow in his hand. He's holding my back. And Father Harriman says, "Hey, Kevin, come here. And I hobble back to him. And he goes, "How would you like to come and share your experience this Good Friday with our 7th and 8th grade class?" I was mortified. I said, oh, Father, I don't have a speech and I wouldn't know what to say." And my dad shoves me forward with his oven mitt-sized gorilla hands and goes, "He'll do it." I look back at my dad like, "What are you doing, man?" He goes, "You'll do it. We need closure." I was like, "Man, you need closure. I need to go home and lay down." He goes, "Kevin, you'll do it." And when Pat Hines says things thrice, he's 6'1", I'm not, you do it. So the very Good Friday, which was just a few days away, I write a speech till 3 in the morning on that day, on Good Friday, not mentally healthy at all. I write the speech till 3 in the morning. My dad edits the speech at 6 a.m. We go to the speech at 8 a.m. I walk into the rectory I'm very familiar with because I went to that school. I walk into the rectory, a bunch of 7th and 8th grade kids sitting cross-legged on the floor in their Catholic uniforms, the same uniform I used to wear. And I'm freaking out. I start to shake. I start to shiver. I don't know what I'm gonna do. What just happened to me is so raw, I don't think that I can handle this. And there I am with my 17-page speech in my left hand, my cane in my right hand, holding myself up literally because I'm in poor shape and I've just come off of the recovery from a 10 and a half hour back surgery to replace my shattered vertebrae with metal. So here I am, and they say go. Father Harriman gives me a nice little intro, and it's my time. I lean up against the table behind me so I can get some sturdiness, and I begin. I drop page by page to the floor, 45 minutes to read aloud. I drop the last page to the floor. Now mind you, I'm shaking like a leaf, crying the entire presentation. It is so real, it is so raw, and I'm thinking to myself at the end as I drop that last page, who did that help? Why am I here? What am I doing? And what did Brother George Cherry and Monsignor Harriman think that this was gonna do? Immediately, without asking for it, 8 hands go up. 8 inquisitive young minds raise their hands. And I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go. The first kid to the left-hand corner, young little freckled white kid, he goes, hey, Mr. Hines. And he basically says the most inappropriate question you could think of to ask an adult male in front of like all these other kids. And the nun next to him goes, don't answer that. And I said I wasn't going to. But then the next 7 questions were compassionate, kind, empathetic, and empowering. And I answered to the best of my ability. And there it was. My first speech over, Q&A done, and these kids got something out of it. So Father Harriman calls me 2 weeks later and says to get to the rectory right away, he's got something for me. Now, I've got a cane and a back brace. I'm barely mobile. My dad's at work. Nobody else can take me to the rectory, which is 2 miles away at least. I end up huffing it up this giant hill, 2 miles, my back brace and my cane, sweating profusely through all of my clothes. I look like I was in the rain. I get there. I sit down in Father Harriman's office. He hands me a manila envelope. I open it. He says, open it. I open it. And there's this beautiful color pencil drawing of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And I open that, and there's 120 letters from every single one of the 120 kids that were in the audience that day. And I shouldn't call it an audience, it was a room. And I end up reading every single letter when I get home after I took a shower because I was super sweaty at that point, which was TMI. Anyway, so I get home, I read the letters, and I realized right away that there were no parameters given to the kids on how or what they should write, and these kids were minors. They were under the age of 18, and they wrote to their heart's content. Mostly beautiful, kind messages of thanks and compassion and hope for the future. But there were a handful of the letters that were from individuals that were actively suicidal in that very class. And we got those letters back to the school, and they had already screened them prior to, and they got those kids in front of the people that needed to see them to make sure they were safe. And it's my understanding that they're alive today. Now, I didn't do that, but this message that we gave, that my father helped me write, was a conduit to their changing their own lives. They went home and did the work, they got the mental health help, and they are here. And I realized we made an impact through the story because we know today that storytelling does save lives. It forms sticky memories in the back of the brain, science-based, evidence-informed. It's been proven that if you tell a story of even the method, but on how you found recovery and well-being and stay and live in that recovery and fight to survive every day, that can actually help an individual go home, do the work, and augment their entire destiny if it's done right. And when this happened, my dad looked at me when he read the letters that night. He turned to me from his desk and he said, Kevin, you have to do this however, wherever, and whenever possible. And we never stopped. The very next speech was in Oakland, California at a drug rehabilitation center for hardcore drug use for 14 to 18-year-olds, which is terrifying. And in that speech, there's something important that happened. There I was with my rear to a table, trying for balance, holding my cane, with my back brace tightened. And I read the speech from the page, dropping page by page to the floor. And that is when immediately a young man's hand goes up. I remember him vividly. Bald head, kind of shaved like mine, and he had a bit of an odd mustache, blonde kid, and he goes, "Hey, Mr. Hines." And I said, "That's my dad. He's in the back. You can call me Kevin." He goes, "Yeah, whatever, man." He goes, "Hey, dude, why'd you read it? You were there." And I look at my dad in the back because I know it's coming. And my dad goes like this, which is this old move that a Mike Tyson referee used to do during his fights, right into the camera like I just did to you. Boom, boom, and it meant he got you. I get in the car, my dad turns to me before he ever turns on the engine. He goes, "You know what happened, Kevin?" I was like, "Yes, Dad." He goes, "He got you." I said, "Yeah, I got the reference, Dad. You know, you do it all the time." And he goes, "Kevin, never read it again." And I never did, except for a few times when an organizational, a speakers bureau kind of forced me to. But after that, after the two speakers bureaus I was a part of that I had signed on to, that I had become a part of, that I signed with, after 6 years of free presentations, you know, totaling $1 million worth of presentations, you know, 10,000 hours of presentations for free, I began to realize that there was some value in this presentation and the way I was saying it. And people did as well. People thought there was value in it, and people understood who are in this speaker's world that just like anything else, it's a service, and services have value. And I would realize that we would take the funds, a lot of them, from those presentations that I did from then on, and put them right back into suicide prevention. So giving is the true receiving is the message I'm trying to release to you here. And you can't just start, you know, on level 10. You have to work tirelessly from the bottom to get to the top. I'm not saying I'm there. I'm not even close. I'm just keep on trucking, keep on moving forward with my message. And I believe it's helped a lot of people change their lives, and people have relayed that to me, and that's wonderful. And it makes my heart sing, and it makes me feel fulfilled every single day. It's a blessing and a true gift. So what I'm saying to you is, the way I started, I volunteered for a cause after those few first speeches, because it wasn't just like it went skyrocketing after there. There was no meteoric rise, it was over time. I went and volunteered for a few causes. I volunteered first for San Francisco suicide prevention with Eve Meyer. Shout out Eve Meyer, the greatest suicide prevention San Franciscan there ever will be. I volunteered for them. I would give free speeches to them every single week, 4 times a month, and I would take question and answers from their audience. These are individuals who are on the call lines every day trying to save lives. People that call into crisis in San Francisco go there, and they get their lives changed. And sometimes we lose people. But I was training those individuals through lived experience. It was a wonderful, wonderful journey that I started on quite some time ago. It's been almost 20 years. What I am saying is this: you can do your part to change and shift the tide in prevention today, in mental wellness and well-being, in brain and mind and behavioral health, by sharing a post online of someone who's doing really great things for others. You can be the individual that volunteers for a cause for the next 20 years and gives them your time, your energy, so they don't have to go and pay someone, which costs them money, and they're a nonprofit and they can't afford that. You can be the individual that goes to volunteer for any cause. Listen to this. People who volunteer for a cause outside of themselves for the betterment of others are 63% more mentally healthy than those who don't. So at the very least, go help your mental health, and you're helping the world of brain health all on your own. And then you become a part of a network of individuals doing great work. We're all in this together. We're all a team. And if we do it right, through collaboration and cooperation and non-competition, we will help change people's lives forever. So go out there, see what cause speaks to you, and go change someone's life today. And if you don't want to do any of that, find someone on Facebook, Instagram, or any social media that's doing great work and share their work with others, because that could help save a life. All right, guys, that's the vlog for today. This is our Ask Kev moment. One question answered. We're going to get into a lot more down the road. So remember, fight for your mental well-being and be here tomorrow and every day after that. You are valued, you are worthy, and you absolutely matter to me. And if nobody else says it today, I love you and I want you to stay. All right, guys, I wasn't done. You thought I was, but I didn't say a few things that are very important. If you haven't done it already through this vlog, click that subscribe button right here and hit that notification bell. But more importantly, if you or someone you know is in crisis, potentially suicidal, crisis of any kind, please text CNQR to 741-741, the crisis text line. When you text CNQR, that is our foundation's Conquer keyword. It stands for hashtag Conquer Pain. I want you to text CNQR to 741-741 if you're in crisis. C, courage to talk about your mental health. N, normalize the conversation. Q, ask the question, are you suicidal and do you have a plan? And that doesn't put the thought in their mind, but it gives someone permission to talk about their pain. And R stands for recovery, living proof. You got this on lockdown. Conquer your pain. Text CNQR to 741-741. And if you don't like texting, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Our good friend John Draper over there, the director, Dr. John Draper, don't get it twisted. And call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255 and +1 for military, veterans, service men and women, and individuals of all kinds. If you are in pain, we want you to fight that pain so you can survive it every time.